Good evening, everybody. So thank you for joining me. What I hope we're going to have here is the start of something that we're going to be doing on a regular basis. And my objective really is to try and support you in your learning, is to try and support you to get to the place where you can play what I call more intuitive golf, a place where you're moving well but not having to think about it too much, a place where it begins to feel more natural, a bit more automatic. As you will know, I'm a great believer in the mind and the body and trying to use what I call that human technology. That human technology is, I believe, more powerful than any technology on the outside. And so we want to tap into that and use that. Now, depending on how long you've worked with me for, what I'm going to go through, some of it you would have heard before, but that is important to have a refresh on that. And I hope I can just go into enough detail here. I'm going to keep it as concise as I can because I just want to get to the key points. But give you enough information that when you are practicing next time, you make better decisions. This is not about changing everything about your practice. This is about making sure you don't get stuck in ruts of the way you practice and the way you go about trying to change and improve any aspect of your game. And by the way, I made the title about a swing, but it could be about a shot. It could be about playing a certain shape of shot, a certain pitch shot, a bunker shot, putt, whatever. What we're going to talk about applies to all of that. So what we all know is we can get stuck in ruts. We can get stuck in a rut where we find it very difficult to make a change. But what very often is happening, we're not aware we're in that rut. And so what I hope tonight is about is a bit of a jolt to go, well, let me slow down a bit. Let me be careful about how I'm practicing and make sure I do some things in the most effective way. So that's really what our objective is. I'm going to go through towards the latter part, a very specific exercise, which again, some of you may have done with me before. We're going to go through that in a little bit of detail. We're going to start by looking at some of the principles about changing. Because first of all, we might want to say, why is it difficult to change? I mean, that's probably a good question to begin with, is why is change hard? You know, when you think about it, because we know what we want to do very often. You know, we know what we want to do. We want to make this change. We may be even clear about it. We maybe even think we've done it sometimes, but it doesn't always seem sick. So why is that hard? What are some of the things, you know, as I'm asking you the question now, have a think about it. And by the way, if you have any questions as we go along, I will check on those later on. So feel free to jot any questions down. But why is change hard to make? Well, really, part of it is what I've already said a moment. We get stuck in a rut. In other words, when we are trying to make a change in our swing, just make sure you can still see me here. When I try and make a change, sometimes I'm doing it too close to what I already do. So in other words, the neural pathways, you know, our body has a memory. Our brain has neural circuits that we're creating all the time, and we have created strong habits. We've created strong patterns already in that system. And so very often the way we go about trying to make the change, it's not different enough. You know, too many of the components are the same. The speed we swing at is the same. The number of balls we hit are the same. The amount of time we spend is the same. And so we don't really bring about enough different components in order to make that change. So that's one of the reasons why change can be quite hard to do. Have a think yourself again. What is it that you know about yourself that makes that change hard? Is it the fact you get very attached to the result? In other words, the outcome. You know you're trying to make a change to your swing, but actually, if you're really honest with yourself, you're very caught up with what the shot's doing. What is the result? And that's difficult because the result is something that obviously you're hoping is going to get better. But if you're attached to that while you're trying to make a change, you're going to create more emotion around your change. And when we're emotional, and what I mean by that is frustrated, uptight, tense, when we're in that mode of how we are, we're going to change, we're not very open to that change. We're not going to feel very well. We're not going to think very clearly when we're in that situation. So suddenly it becomes a lot of effort. We might be standing over ourselves. We think we're trying hard. We're talking to ourselves. We're telling ourselves what to do, but we actually judge ourselves very harshly. I mishit one, and I get angry and upset, and now I'm building more and more tension. And so this is a rut, a pattern that is very easy for us to get caught into. So that's one of the reasons why I believe that change is so hard to make, because we're not really breaking the pattern enough. And there's a great saying I love, which is you've got to break the habit of being yourself. So when I ask you the question about what is it you think why is it difficult for you? Why is change hard for you? Have a think about it in yourself. You know yourself. It may be something I've said there, attachment to the result. It could be the fact that you practice in the same way all the time, the same clubs all the time, all those type of things it could be. So just have a think about that and see if you can sort of become aware, because when we are consciously aware of what is holding us back, then we can do something about it. Otherwise, we are in this rut. We're in this same pattern. And what I say is that we're too close to our old patterns to be able to create new ones. And that's what we want to do. We want to create, it's a great analogy is that the patterns we're in become like 3-lane motorways when they're working well. And what I mean by that is they're pretty straight ahead. Everything flows. It's pretty easy to go quick. And so therefore, the connection from A to B in the brain in that motorway is all set up. It's easy to go down. When we want to make a new change, we have to actually come off of that road. We have to actually start with really a little narrow, farmy country lane, and we have to work on that. And we have to build up this new connection in our neural pathway and then actually into our body to be able for that to become natural. So again, that's why a change can be hard. Sometimes we do have to carve, if you like, this new pathway. So what tonight is about is helping you carve that new pathway, is making sure, one, you have some principles that are going to hopefully, again, just jolt you and stop you and go, right, let me practice a little bit differently here to make sure I create those changes. And then an actual exercise we go through to create that new neural pathway as well. Now, again, I'm not asking you to make all your practice this way. I really don't think that's necessary, but I think it's important to make sure what we're going to talk about are these principles and the practice you're going to introduce at least on a regular basis. Okay, so that's really what this is going to be all about. Now, first principle we're going to look at is the model of what we call flow. Okay, and what this is a very well tried and tested model in many different disciplines. And what it is, it helps us again understand the sort of place, if you like, that we need to get into in order to perform at our best. Flow state is something that most of us probably use, even if we don't realize something. Just things were flowing today. I was in that flow state. So what I'm going to hear is just give you a model so you can see very clearly why that happens. And then we can use that to our advantage when we're actually trying to make a change and when we're trying to practice. And probably I think I'd add here with golf, of course, golf is, as we all know, a very challenging sport. And so sometimes we can be in that flow and then we lose that. But if we understand how it comes about, then we can probably get ourselves back to it a lot quicker. And some of the best players in the world are really, I've seen them naturally do this. They have that kind of sense to make changes, even they don't necessarily, understand the principles behind why they're doing that. Okay, so I'm just going to use this one here. So the model looks like this, okay? Okay, so in the middle here, we have our flow. Again, I'm just checking you can see that okay, cool. So that's flow. Now, on this side here, we have our challenge. Let me just try and use some different colors to hopefully make it stand out a little bit. Okay, so here's our challenge over here. Okay, and here is our task, the thing we're trying to do. Okay, now they're all perceived in terms of we have a perceived task, we have a perceived challenge. For example, I'm trying to make a change in my swing and I perceive that challenge to be very difficult. So let's say on a scale of 0 to 10, somewhere around an 8 up here is where I perceive that challenge to be. I perceive my, this should say ability, okay? I perceive my ability to be able to do that not so high, okay? So I think what I'm trying to do is high, but my ability is only a 2 on the scale here. Now, if I match those two up there, we can see that that's quite a bit outside of the band of flow, okay? In that situation, we create anxiety and stress, keeping it very simple. Anxiety and stress is what we create in that situation there. Now, let's just understand another way of looking at it. Let's say I'm being asked to do something, a challenge, which I think is really easy, okay? So it's actually a 2. And my ability to do it is really high, as in it's just not difficult for me at all to do, then I'm at an 8 on my ability. Now I'm over here. I'm still way out of flow. Well, interestingly, this tends to create a different form of anxiety, more in the way of boredom, zone out, you might say, okay? But it's still a form of distraction. Let's call it that, a mental distraction. So both of those scenarios where I perceive what I'm being asked to do, I don't have the ability to do it, or what I'm trying to do, I think I'm way better than that, and therefore I'm practicing in a way that I'm zoned out. Okay, so for example, you could get caught in practicing a lot of short irons that you're really good at, and you won't be focusing that well because there's no challenge to it. So you could add a challenge in, for example, of I've still hit my short iron, but I'm going to practice drawing it, fading it, hitting it on a lower trajectory, higher trajectory, those type of things. So you bring about a challenge. What you're trying to do is bring these two together to get you into this flow state. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to match it up. So what we want to do is look at what are some of the things we can do when this is the more typical thing, when the subject of trying to change your technique, or as I said, it could be a shot. When we're in that mode there, what are some of the things we can do in order to help us get back into the flow state? So think about it. We could change the speed of our swing. Okay, so we could simply do the classical thing of slow down a little bit. We could change the club. Okay, we could go to an easier club to begin with. We could change the lie, by putting it maybe on a T-peg just to reduce the task. Now, here's a saying that I want you to remember, because this is really the part that makes this work. And I'm going to see if I can find space for it because I'm running out of room, but you're going to reduce the task. Okay, so I've called it challenge over there, task, but reduce the task until, okay, now the until ... reduce the task until. And what that means is you'll reduce the task until you feel like you have the ability to do it. So on this one here, what I'm trying to do it with my 7-iron still. I'm swinging at a normal speed. It's on a regular lie, that type of thing. I haven't changed about what I'm trying to do, and I'm trying to change my swing. So now I might change the club. I might slow myself down a little bit. I might give myself a slightly better lie just to help me bring it to a 5. Then all of a sudden, my perceived ability to carry that out goes up, and then I end up in this flow state here, right in the middle. Okay, so we have the ability through our decisions, by working on this model, we have the ability through our decisions to help bring us into more of a flow state. And that's really what we're looking to do all the time when we're actually practicing. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. One of the key sayings here is reduce the task until. So whatever you're doing, reduce that task. Now, you can apply this obviously to a golf course. And so actually, let's put this in the context. If you're playing a course regularly, not unusual to end up with a hole that becomes a real problem hole for you. And what you probably find is you end up playing that hole in the same way day in, day out, even though it's become a problem for you. So what you want to do is consider reducing the task, at least changing the strategy to something that you feel you've got more of the ability to do. So whatever's tripping you up might very often be the tee shot. Could you do something with that tee shot that you feel you've got the ability to do that will put you more into that flow state? Okay. Now, what's really interesting about when you're using the mind and body is that our focus and the feeling we can create in our body, which we're going to come to in a moment, that is actually something that we can do regardless of the situation. So go back to what we were talking about at the beginning of why is change hard. I think one of the things that affects us most is we're attached to the result. We're letting the result become too important. And therefore, we're not giving ourselves the space and the time to make the changes that we want to make. We've got to forge this little country road and work on that in a way that builds up those new neural pathways to be able to help you to make the change. But we need to give ourselves time to do that. when we're attached to the result, that frustration that can come with that, the over trying, the over focusing, the over effort that can come with that really gets in the way of us doing something new. And it isn't easy, but applying certain principles, understanding what's going on, and then using your mind and body in a way, absolutely, then you can make the changes. And so what I was saying there is that regardless of the challenge, so even if you're not, let's say, for example, you have built up confidence with your short iron and you have found a focus and a feeling that works. If it's truly, and this is a very interesting point, boy, if it's truly you are connected with the feeling and you are connected with that focus and that's what's working, there's no reason why it won't work with many of the longer clubs as well. But what does happen is when we go to the longer club, if we're honest with ourselves, we dilute that focus and we dilute that feeling because we are now attached to the result out there. And we're trying too hard to get the result, or we're worried about the result, not trying to make a mistake. And all of that is diluting our focus. That's the simplest way to put it. Think again about how you may be, when I ask you the question, what stops you making a change? How do you get in your own way? What do you do when you're trying to make a change? Are you instructing yourself? Do you find yourself, whatever it is you're working on, telling yourself by words, repeating what you need to do? So it might be, right, I want to make sure I use my hands and turn that club upside down properly. And you're telling yourself to do it and thinking that if I tell myself to do it as I'm doing it, I'm more likely to do it. Well, think about it from this point of view. The golf swing for most of us is somewhere around 1.2 to 1.3 seconds. In other words, from the time we begin the swing to the time it hits the ball, it's around 1.2, 1.3 seconds. They say that to say 10 words internally in our head is somewhere around 3.4 seconds. You don't always need 10 words in your instructions, you might need 5. But it could still be somewhere around 1.7 seconds, 1.5 seconds, let's say, if you talk a bit quicker in your head. So there you are, possibly, and this is for you to start to think about. Again, what these are about is challenging you to get you to a place where hopefully you can practice more effectively. So the question to you is, do you find yourself thinking, well, if I tell myself what to do, then I'm going to do it? And you might be trying to cram in some words which actually take longer to do than the golf swing, but you're trying to tell yourself why you're doing the golf swing. That isn't going to work. But what does happen, and this is where it tricks us a bit, is when we have a pile of balls and we're hitting 30, 40 balls in a row, what happens is those instructions we're giving ourselves start to work for the next ball. Because we build up a bit of an affirmation, a bit of a repetition, it starts the next ball. The problem, of course, when we go and play on the golf course, we don't have the next ball, or at least we don't want the next ball, because that's obviously a provisional coming in. So instructing ourselves through auditory command is really not that effective, okay? Not going to help us that much. We want to do that in a different way. And again, that's what we're going to tap into a little bit now. So I hope that's good. Let me just check if there's any questions flying through at this stage. And if there are, I will see if they need addressing relative to okay. Looks all good. Yep, looks all good. So nothing there. So I'm just going to have a quick sip of my water as well. Okay, so now, hopefully those principles make sense. Again, all I want this to be is thought-provoking for you to be, when you're practicing next time, go, how do I design my practice slightly differently based on that? Actually, I want to add one thing. This is a little bit about practice. So actually, yes, to go to the practice part now, then we're finished with the exercise I want you to do. That would be a nice way to finish. When you're practicing, a good way to start practicing for sure is what we call block practice. And that is where you are hitting quite a few shots with the same club, okay? This is very often at the start of a change. So we do need repetition. We need repetition. Again, hopefully using some of the principles we've learned, but you might do a bit of block practice where you're going to hit several balls. However, remember the flow chart. Don't do it in such a way that you end up becoming bored. because then what's happening is, because you have the ability. So here you are with a 9-iron, you're starting to make those changes, you're swinging, and eventually you're hitting the ball quite well, but you're not really that focused on what it is you're doing. So now you're immediately falling back to those old patterns in the brain and in the body. But it just so happens that you have the ability, you've got a club you're managing, it all looks like it's working quite well. Okay, but so just be aware of that. Okay, you just need to be careful of that. But for sure, when you're starting out with something new, block practice, hitting quite a few balls is important. Again, the exercise I'm going to give you in a moment will hopefully break that pattern up a little bit in a moment. So we definitely want to do that at the start of a practice. What we then want to do is we do want to start to vary the clubs. We want to start to bring other clubs in to our practice, and let's say clubs and shots. We want to start to do that. Now, what we're really doing in that situation by bringing other clubs and shots in is we're starting to test ourselves, because the other thing that can happen, you can get slightly addicted to too strong a term, but in hitting our 9-iron and hitting it very well, we can get a little bit hooked on that, and we really need to test ourselves to see what is it going to be like with some longer clubs. Now remember, what we should be testing is our focus, because the focus should be able to stay the same. So that is our ability to reduce those distractions of the shot, the target, the outcome, the result, etc. Okay, but we want to start to vary the clubs and the shots so that we can actually test to find out where are we. You know, we need to know every now and then, where are we? Okay, that's what we need to check in every now and then to see where we are in our practice schedule. Okay, so hopefully there's some of the principles. Now let's get into the actual exercise I'd like you to do. And again, some of you would have been through this with me before. I'm going to go through it in its entirety. It's only going to take a few minutes to do that, but I mean, I'll go through the steps that you need to go through. And actually, if you have a club near you or with you, it might be worth you doing that along as I go through it as well. And so what we're looking for now is a process I call internalization. Now, some people would call it mental imagery. I just called it that because it felt to me that it was a combination of visualization, feeling, and everything, and it was all going on internally. Okay, so I tend to call it internalization. But first of all, let's just talk about this principle of mental imagery and visualization as something to do, when you're trying to make a change. There is now lots and lots of research to demonstrate that if we can use our mind and our body in a way to experience the thing that we would like to experience, but without actually doing it. Sitting down, possibly, in golf, we can do it holding a golf club, rehearsing the feeling and the visualization of what it is we'd like to do. There is evidence, concrete evidence, that we literally do start to create new synaptic connections in the brain, new neural pathways in the brain to create that new pattern. In other words, we start to form a motorway. We start to go through that country road, and we do it enough times, we start to form a motorway. So again, go back to what I was saying earlier, where we can sometimes get caught in a rut doing the same thing, same type of practice, same movement, same speed, all those type of things. We're really stuck on the same motorway, but that motorway isn't really going where we want it to go. So we've got to practice in a different way. So the visualization, the mental internal practice really does work. Now, there are multiple studies. One of probably the earliest ones, most famous one, was a basketball one, where they had 3 groups around a free throw. One group were actually physically practicing it. One group were just mentally rehearsing it, no practice whatsoever. And one group were mentally rehearsing and physically practicing it. Now, no surprise, the group that actually did the physical practice and the mental rehearsal actually performed the best. But those that didn't even pick up a ball and did the mental rehearsal performed nearly as well in the test afterwards. So in other words, just by actually mentally rehearsing it, they started to improve their technique, improve how they felt when they're actually doing the free throw. There's examples to do with muscle building. They do finger abductor tests where they had people actually working their fingers, and I can't remember how many people in the study, but I know it was 53% of 53% improvement in muscle tone happened as a result of people practicing this over a number of weeks. The other group, they did no physical movement. They just mentally felt what it would feel like to actually rehearse that movement. And they produced a 35% growth in their muscle tone, muscle activity. So 35% by not actually physically even doing anything, but by just sending the messages through their mind and body to feel what it is they wanted to feel. So if we are just trying to change our golf swing by treating it as almost this external thing that I'm trying to get it right, I'm trying to move better, whatever it is, it's something almost out there, something away from us. If that's the way we're trying to just go about changing it, we really are limiting how well it's going to change. We're limiting ourselves. And again, my wish is that you start to use that technology of your mind and your body in a different way. And so the internalization, again, there's so much proof that you can start to get the changes that you want. Michael Phelps is very well known for, having done that mental rehearsal in his, for his golds and world records, etc. So we know it works. But again, what stops us making the change is maybe we're just stuck in habits that that we don't necessarily want to be in. But what it is, again, I think this is really important to keep being clear on, because again, what I'm hoping from the back of this, you're going to, I'm going to practice differently. Again, not all the time, but some of the time, is there is nothing like the feeling of a lovely shot. There's nothing like it. And so what happens when we're practicing and we're maybe going through a lot of balls is we might be hitting some bad ones, but every now and then, bang, we crack one and it feels great. And so in our mind, we can't always justify slowing down, feeling it, thinking about it, shutting my eyes. We don't always want to justify that in our head because we would really like the rush of the next great shot. But I don't think it gives us the progress long term that we're really looking for. I think that tends to keep us in a bit of a shorter term mindset. And almost that instant gratification, which I don't think is really what you're after. I think we're after that much longer term growth. Okay, so what we want to do, again, what this is about is helping you. I call it jolting, just to go, oh, hang on, let me think about this. Let me just be a bit more aware, a little bit more conscious, a little bit more disciplined with how I'm going to go about my practice. So that might mean, again, very good place to start with this, and I'll go through the steps in a moment, is one of the things you could do is start your session differently. So, because that's the time to do it, because otherwise you might get into a session, before you know it, you're 15 minutes in and you're already in your normal pattern. So you might want to sit down, slow down, focus on your breathing, bring yourself to what you feel some presence. Ask yourself, how do I want this to feel when I practice now? What is it I'm trying to achieve? Do I want to learn a type of shot? Do I want to feel better body weight control, better weight shift, whatever it may be? Ask yourself the question, be clear on it, then bring up the feeling of what it is you want. Stay with that feeling for a moment, and then begin your session. So just that starting differently could be enough to begin a new pattern. Another idea you could have is that once you've warmed up, you change club every 5 shots, maybe every 3 shots. And that change of club, getting a different club out the bag, might be enough to go, right, let me stop again, let me feel what it is I want to do, and then go from there. So yeah, we're looking to see if we can break the habit of being yourself in terms of how you go about trying to make changes. Okay, so let's go into now, again, hopefully you've got the sense that when we use our mind and body well, the human technology, as I like to call it, there's every evidence that if you're patient with that and you work at that, you could get some really profound changes. Jack Nicklaus, again, very famous for mentally picturing every shot. He would say, actually, even in practice, when you read his literature, everything. I've never heard him saying different, that in practice or play, he never hit a shot without first visualizing the shot and having a feeling for the swing he wanted to produce that shot. That's one heck of a discipline to do that. So let's just say he did it most of the time. That's some discipline. And to some people, the greatest golfer of all time. So probably not a bad thing to tune into it. So here is the process. I'll go through it. I'll walk it through it maybe a couple of times. And then I can put some notes up in here as well. So you've got them as well. So I will pick, for the sake of this, I will pick a movement I'm going to say I'm working on, which is to feel that through my grip, I've got control with my grip that I can turn the handle upside down. Let's say that's what I'm going to focus on. I'm going to feel that angle of the handle, and I want to feel like I'm turning the handle upside down. That's the control I'm looking for. Okay, so here's the process I would go through. I would set myself up. And I'm assuming I've warmed up, by the way, by hopefully some physical movement, etc. Okay, and possibly the little conversation I had said a moment ago. Number one, in my normal setup, I'm going to slowly feel the movement I'd like to feel. And if I need to do that more than once, that's fine. But eventually, I want to be able to do it the first time and feel that. Okay. Now, if I need to look, I can afterwards, but I'd rather you didn't. But some sort of things, you might just want the confirmation that, yep, okay, that is the same angle. Now, number two, I'm going to close my eyes and repeat the feeling of moving that club and that handle in the same way with my eyes closed. Okay. Number three, I'm going to close my eyes. I'm not going to move, but I'm going to rehearse the feeling. So I'm going to internalize what it felt like. And you should, when you're doing it, you'll know if you're doing it well because you'll actually be keen to go. Like I can feel that, even though I'm talking, I can feel what's going to happen there. And there's a part of my body that actually wants to go and do that. So that's a kind of a clue that you've got the feeling. Once you feel, yep, I felt that, then you're just going to open your eyes and swing. Now, when you open your eyes and swing, I would say go into what I call observation mode. In other words, you don't want to switch off completely. But what you want to do is be in observation mode, which is to observe how well did your hands control that club turning upside down in the swing. Now, that's really different to having done the work and then going, like, remember, turn your hands upside down as you swing. That's trying to instruct yourself to do it and tell yourself to do it. And as you could clearly see there, I don't know how many words are involved there, but got nowhere near saying that by the time I'd hit the shot. And again, we don't want to, and I'll come on to probably the final part, we don't want to even be saying it to ourselves before we start, and I'll explain why in a moment. So going to that observing mode, the observing mode is just finding out how well did I do that, okay? No judgment, and by observing, you're giving yourself good feedback and your own body will start to learn more. So let me go through the routine one more time. So I'm going to set up. My objective is to, through my grip, control the handle turning upside down. So I'm going to practice that feeling. Yep, I feel I can feel that. Didn't need to look at it. I'm going to close my eyes, repeat it. Yep, I think that's matched up. Close my eyes, no movement, just feel it. Yep, felt it. Now observe. Now in that observing mode, I would say that club turned upside down a bit later than it did in my practice. Okay, so that's the value of observing. You can start to sense it. You don't then try harder to correct it. You just get clearer and clearer with the feeling and the internalization. Now, what we would like to get to is the stage 3, stage 4, I think it is, where you are eyes shut, not moving, and just internalizing it. We want to get that fairly close to real time, In other words, you don't want to be taking 10 seconds to internalize and feed it when it only takes 0.7 of a second. So we want to eventually be able to feel that happening almost in real time. Okay, that's something we want to build up to. But again, that's flow chart. That could create stress trying to do that now, and you may not do a very good job of it. You're going to build up to that gradually in that way. Okay. So hopefully you've got those points there, but I will just quickly, as I chat here, and I'll check if there's any questions before the end. So one, I'll just say is normal, okay, where you're feeling the change. Two is eyes shut, okay, where you're still moving. Three is no move, where you do internalize. I'll just say internal, okay. And then four, hang on. Yep, and four is swing in observing mode. Okay, swing in observing mode. So normal swing, eyes open. You can check if you need to. Normal swing, eyes shut. Not swinging, internalizing it, and then open your eyes and swing in with that in that observation mode. Now, I said that we don't really want to get in the habit of instructing ourselves through our auditory tone at all, I don't believe, because it's just too slow. What we ultimately want to, I believe, build up to here is the feeling. The feeling, I think, is the underestimated part. In fact, I'm going to say something as well to close out with a moment. The feeling is the bit I want you to, if you take nothing else away from this, try and switch out of thinking mode into feeling mode. That would be my real wish for your takeaway. Come out of thinking mode into feeling mode. Feel it. Now, the moment you feel, by closing your eyes, it's you're shutting out one sense, you're more likely to go inside and feel it. And build up that feeling. When you're doing, you are again sending pathways through to actually start to stimulate that area of the body. You're bringing coherence to a degree to that area of the body. So, you know, if you was thinking of, let's say, weight shift by using your hips better, by feeling that, you're sending more coherence, more energy to that part of the body to allow that to happen. The feeling is what I think changes it more than anything else. And you hear the best players talking about, you know, how their swing feels, but without an explanation to what it is. I hope that this is some value, and that's what I say. Stop thinking, more feel. And really, maybe the final part is, my message would be, don't underestimate that by getting one, and this is really, really important, getting one small change mastered. One small change mastered will, without fail, have a knock-on effect to other things. It's something that we all can get better at, because we want the instant gratification. We want the results. And I have this struggle as a coach sometimes. It's like, I really want you to do better quickly, or I want you to do better, and can over-try. And so I know if I'm over-trying sometimes, for sure you're over-trying. So we've all got to get better at it. And again, this is part of why I love doing these, because it's a great commitment to me as well, to really dial into what I know the absolute principles are that we're going to work on. And so don't underestimate that you mastering one small change, whatever that may be, the area I just gave here, it might be just gripping the club better, but really knowing you're gripping it better. It might be just really being in a better posture. Like mastering it and being patient with it. Do not underestimate the potential other benefits that will come from that. And I really think that is a key point. And if we can get ourselves away from trying to get results too quickly and judging ourselves on the results, and allow ourselves to go with the ebb and flow a little bit while we master that one change. I think if we can do that, then our improvement graph will gradually do this, rather than being a bit too much this way. Okay, so that's it really. That's covered our key parts. Let me just check if there's any questions flying through. So just bear with me a moment. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to pull up that last, if I can find it, the last message. So there's a question here. Hang on. Let me just, while I'm going to do that, I'm just going to see if I can quickly bring up And if anybody wants these notes, by the way, that you're not seeing them all at the moment, but if anybody does want them, you're welcome to have them. Okay, so let me just show you that while I just quickly look at the comments. Okay. Okay, so there's one question coming through. So I'm now going to just stop that again here. Question is, how do you quiet the mind when you have a lot of technical thoughts going around in your head? Okay, it's a great question, and it's to some extent it's the one you would expect, because it's what we all do. We have all these technical thoughts going on. How do you quiet the mind down? Well, there's no easy way, and there's no easy answer. But if you think of the flow chart, when you're trying to do anything that you potentially, for whatever reason, you've set up in your mind that's quite challenging, you're going to probably overtry. Overtrying leads to overthinking, overfocusing. So reducing the task down will quieten some of the thoughts down. The other thing is almost what I just finished with. It is a commitment. And I say that's why there's no easy way around it. It's a commitment, and probably the belief that if I do master one change, it's going to help me in many other changes. It's going to either naturally create other changes, or at least give me a better platform for them. And I can guarantee you it doesn't only change that one thing, it always gives you other changes. So there isn't an easy answer, Pam, for that, but I would say it's number one, have the belief, if I master this, others will come, and I'm going to go with the ebb and flow while it goes on. And I'm going to stay therefore very committed. And if I use this process, here's the benefit. One thing actually I didn't say that you could do. I said at the start of a session, you could sit down and have a conversation with yourself, go, what is the objective? What is it I'd love to feel in my movement? There's a lot of value in writing that down, that answer to that question. What's my objective? What would I love to feel in my movement today? What's the shot I'd like to make? Write it down and look at it occasionally. That is going to keep bringing your focus to clarity. You're going to have clarity. We're going to talk another time about over-focusing and under-focusing. That's a whole nother subject. That will bring you clarity and will hopefully reduce that too many other thoughts. Okay? So again, I'll just check, make sure there's no others that have popped up there in while I'm doing that. But I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, no, okay, that's cool. Well, look, I really appreciate you joining me. I hope you found it some value. I truly appreciate your time with me when we work together, and I really do mean that, because I'm just loving what I'm doing, and I'm loving trying to find ways to make the game more natural, to use your body and your mind in the most effective way, that actually should have other knock-on effect to other areas of life as well. Because if we feel better about our golf, we know that affects our, we feel better about other things as well. So thank you very much for your commitment, and I hope that we're going to do a lot more of these, that these become valuable to you and help you progress on your golfing goals. So I'm always here if you've got any questions, but thank you very much, and I shall look forward to seeing you at the next perfect time.